Are you seriously doing this again, Taylor? Really? The tears were already streaming down my face. But Liam's cold voice cut through me like a blade. We were standing in the parking lot as the evening sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the asphalt. The chill in the air seeped into my bones, but it was nothing compared to the ice in his eyes. My fiancé, the man I thought was my entire world, now looking at me like I was a stranger he couldn't wait to get away from. Liam, please just listen to me for 1 second. My voice trembled, my throat tight with the effort of holding back sobs. I stood there in front of him, desperately trying to make him understand, but he laughed, a sharp, mocking sound that made me feel like some kind of pathetic joke in his life. Dude, Taylor, this emotional garbage is getting old. He twirled his car keys around his finger, not even bothering to look at me properly. Why can't you get it through your head? I'm swamped with work, and you're constantly blowing things out of proportion. Seriously, grow up already. Something inside me shattered completely. This wasn't the Liam who used to surprise me with spontaneous dates back in college, who would text me random sweet messages throughout the night just because. This was someone else entirely. Cold, detached, and apparently done pretending I mattered to him at all. I opened my mouth to respond when I heard heavy footsteps approaching from behind. Someone called my name. The voice was measured but carried weight. Taylor. I turned around. Jasper, Liam's best man. The guy who always stayed quiet at gatherings, who never inserted himself into conversations unless absolutely necessary. His tall frame approached us, his sharp features set in an expression I'd never seen before. And those observant eyes of his, they seemed to catch everything. The way he looked at Liam told me immediately that he'd heard everything, every single hurtful word. What kind of way is that to treat someone, Liam? Jasper's tone was controlled, but there was something underneath it, authority, a quiet power that demanded attention. Liam looked surprised. Jasper? Bro, this is between Taylor and me. Not when you're humiliating him in public, it's not. Jasper cut him off without hesitation, his voice firm. When your behavior becomes openly hurtful, it stops being a private matter. Frustration flashed across Liam's face, but Jasper remained completely composed. Instead of engaging further with Liam, he turned to look at me, and in that moment, for the first time in what felt like forever, someone actually saw me. Not through me, not past me, but directly at me. My pain, my struggle, all of it. Are you okay? Jasper asked softly, genuine concern in his voice. I could only wipe at my tears. Words wouldn't come. Liam let out a loud scoff. Wow. Classic Jasper, swooping in to play hero. This isn't your business, man. Jasper said nothing, but his silence somehow spoke louder than all of Liam's anger. He simply ignored him and stepped closer to me. Taylor, come with me. Please. I was stunned. Liam's best friend was actually taking my side? Liam shook his head in disbelief, climbed into his car, and the engine roared to life. He pulled out of the parking spot without a single glance back, like our entire relationship meant nothing. Jasper watched him go, then turned back to me, waiting patiently. Come on. You're not staying here alone. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like maybe someone actually gave a damn about me. The parking lot felt emptier now, the spaces between the parked cars seeming to stretch endlessly. I stood there still trying to process what had just happened. My fiancé had driven away. His best friend had defended me. Nothing made sense anymore. I don't want to be a burden, I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. Jasper stepped closer, his presence somehow both grounding and overwhelming. You're not a burden, Taylor. You never were. He paused, studying my face with those perceptive eyes. But standing here isn't going to help either of us. My car's just over there. I hesitated, every instinct telling me this was crossing some kind of line. Jasper was Liam's friend, not mine. But where else could I go? My apartment felt too empty, too full of memories. My friends were all mutual friends. Liam's friends first, mine by extension. Why are you doing this? I asked, needing to understand. He's your best friend. Jasper's jaw tightened slightly, the only sign of tension in his otherwise calm demeanor. Friendship doesn't mean supporting someone when they're wrong, especially not when they're treating another person like they're disposable. He gestured toward his car again. Please, Taylor. Let me help. Something in his voice, in the way he looked at me without pity but with genuine care, made me nod. We walked to his car in silence, and I was acutely aware of how close he stayed, like he was worried I might fall apart at any second. Maybe I would. The interior of his car smelled like cedar and something else I couldn't quite place. Clean, subtle, nothing like Liam's car that always reeked of fast food and energy drinks. Jasper started the engine but didn't immediately pull out. Instead, he turned to me. "Where do you want to go? Your place? A friend's house?" "I don't know," I admitted, feeling pathetic. I don't want to be alone right now." He nodded, seeming to understand without me having to explain further. "Okay, I know a place." We drove through the city streets as darkness settled in completely. The streetlights cast moving shadows through the windows and I watched them play across the dashboard, trying to focus on anything except the tight knot of pain in my chest. Jasper didn't try to fill the silence with empty platitudes or awkward small talk, and I was grateful for that. He just drove, steady and sure. Eventually we pulled up to a small, unassuming coffee shop on a quiet side street. Warm light spilled from its windows, and through the glass I could see it was nearly empty, just a couple in one corner, absorbed in their own conversation. "This place stays open late," Jasper explained, as he parked, "and they make the best hot chocolate in the city. Trust me." Hot chocolate. The thought of something warm and sweet was suddenly the most appealing thing in the world. I followed him inside, and the cozy atmosphere immediately wrapped around me like a blanket. Soft jazz played from hidden speakers, and the smell of coffee and baked goods filled the air. Jasper guided me to a corner booth and left me there while he went to order. I sank into the cushioned seat, feeling the adrenaline of the confrontation finally starting to fade, leaving only exhaustion in its wake. Through the window I could see the street outside, ordinary people walking past, living their ordinary lives while mine felt like it was falling apart. When Jasper returned, he was carrying 2 mugs. He set one in front of me, hot chocolate, topped with whipped cream and a dusting of cinnamon, exactly how I always ordered it. "How did you know?" I asked, genuinely shocked. He settled into the seat across from me with a small smile, the first real smile I'd ever seen on his usually serious face. "I pay attention." "You pay attention," I repeated, still staring at the hot chocolate like it might hold answers to questions I didn't even know how to ask. Jasper wrapped his hands around his own mug. "Black coffee," I noticed, and leaned back slightly. "Liam never talked about you at gatherings. Never mentioned what you liked, what made you happy. Nothing. But I saw you. At his office parties, at dinners, at the engagement celebration. You always ordered hot chocolate when you were uncomfortable or upset." My heart did something complicated in my chest, a mixture of sinking and lifting at the same time. Liam, who claimed to love me, who'd proposed to me on one knee in front of all our friends, had never once remembered my favorite drink. And this man, who I'd barely exchanged more than polite hellos with over the past year, had noticed. That's actually kind of amazing and sad at the same time," I said, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. The heat seeped into my palms, grounding me. "It's just sad," Jasper corrected gently. "You deserved someone who paid attention. Someone who cared enough to remember the small things." He took a sip of his coffee, his gaze never leaving mine. "Can I ask you something?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. "How long has he been treating you like that?" The question hit harder than I expected. I'd spent so many months making excuses for Liam, convincing myself that he was just stressed, just busy, just going through a phase. But now, sitting here with someone who'd witnessed just a fraction of it, I couldn't hide behind those excuses anymore. 6 months, maybe longer. I admitted, my voice barely audible over the soft jazz. It started small. Canceled dates, forgotten plans. Then he started getting irritated when I'd call him out on it. Said I was being clingy, that I needed to give him space. I laughed bitterly. And I believed him. I thought if I just asked for less, needed less, he'd come back to me. Jasper's expression darkened. "That's manipulation, Taylor. Making you feel like your completely reasonable needs were somehow excessive." "I know that now," I said, wiping at my eyes with the back of my hand. "But when you're in it, when you love someone, you want to believe them. You want to believe you're the problem because at least then there's something you can fix. You were never the problem." Jasper's voice was firm, almost fierce. and I need you to understand that. Nothing you did warranted that kind of treatment. Nothing. I looked at him then. Really looked at him. In the warm light of the coffee shop, I could see details I'd never noticed before. The slight crinkle at the corners of his eyes, suggesting he smiled more than his serious demeanor let on. The strong line of his jaw, the way his dark hair fell just slightly across his forehead. And his eyes, God, his eyes were so different from Liam's. Where Liam's had grown cold and dismissive, Jasper's were warm, attentive, present. Why are you being so kind to me? I asked. You're his best friend. Shouldn't you be on his side? Jasper set his mug down with deliberate care. I've known Liam since college. We've been through a lot together. But friendship doesn't mean blind loyalty, and it definitely doesn't mean supporting someone when they're actively hurting another person. He paused, seeming to choose his next words carefully. When he first started dating you, I thought he was incredibly lucky. You were everything he wasn't. Thoughtful, genuine, caring. I kept waiting for him to screw it up. Congratulations, your prediction came true, I said with weak humor. A ghost of a smile crossed Jasper's lips. I wish I'd been wrong. You deserved better than what he gave you. You still do. We fell into a comfortable silence after that, sipping our drinks and letting the weight of the evening settle between us. The couple in the corner left, and now it was just us and the barista behind the counter, who was absorbed in her phone. The intimacy of the moment wasn't lost on me. Sitting here with Jasper felt more real, more connected than any evening I'd spent with Liam in the past year. What happens now? I asked eventually. With Liam, I mean, you two are close. This is going to make things complicated. Jasper's jaw tightened. That's his problem, not yours. And honestly, after what I witnessed tonight, I'm questioning a lot about our friendship. Someone who can treat their partner with that much contempt isn't someone I'm sure I want to keep close. The fierce protectiveness in his voice sent another complicated flutter through my chest. I shouldn't be feeling this way. Not so soon. Not when my relationship with Liam was barely cold. But there was something about Jasper's steady presence, his quiet strength that made me feel safe in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. I should probably go home, I said, though the thought of my empty apartment made me want to stay in this warm, safe bubble forever. Face the music, start figuring out what comes next. You don't have to do that tonight, Jasper said. You could stay at my place. I have a guest room. No pressure, no expectations. Just a safe place to sleep without having to process everything alone. The offer hung in the air between us. It was inappropriate, probably. His best friend's ex-fiancé sleeping at his apartment. But the alternative, going home to face all the pieces of my broken relationship alone, felt unbearable. Are you sure? I asked. I don't want to impose, and I definitely don't want to make things more complicated between you and Liam. Taylor. Jasper reached across the table, his hand stopping just short of touching mine. You're not an imposition, and whatever happens between Liam and me is separate from making sure you're okay. Please, let me help. I looked at his hand, so close to mine, and felt something shift inside me. This wasn't about replacing Liam or rebounding or any of the messy emotional complications that would inevitably come later. This was about accepting kindness from someone who offered it freely, without conditions or expectations. Okay, I said softly. Thank you, Jasper. Really. He smiled then, a full genuine smile that transformed his entire face, and I felt my breath catch slightly. Come on, let's get out of here. As we left the coffee shop and walked back to his car, I noticed he stayed close, his presence a steady, comforting shadow, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I was going to be okay. Jasper's guest room was simple but comfortable, a queen bed with crisp white linens, a small desk by the window, and a bookshelf packed with worn paperbacks. He'd given me one of his t-shirts and a pair of sweatpants to sleep in, both of which were far too big but infinitely more comfortable than the clothes I'd been wearing during the parking lot disaster. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my phone face down on the nightstand, because I couldn't bear to look at it. Part of me expected Liam to call, to text, to realize what he'd thrown away and come crawling back. Another part of me, a growing part, hoped he wouldn't. That ship had sailed, crashed, and sunk, and I wasn't sure I had the energy to salvage anything from the wreckage. Sleep came eventually, fitful and filled with fragments of dreams. I couldn't quite remember when I woke up. Morning light filtered through the curtains, and for a disoriented moment I forgot where I was. Then it all came rushing back. The parking lot, Liam's cruel dismissal, Jasper's unexpected kindness. I found him in the kitchen, already dressed for the day in dark jeans and a fitted Henley, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. The domestic normalcy of the scene felt surreal. "Morning," he said, glancing up with a soft smile. "I wasn't sure how you take your coffee, so I left everything out." "Black is fine," I said, accepting the mug he offered. "Thanks for letting me crash here. And for everything else." "You don't need to keep thanking me," Jasper replied, leaning against the counter. "I meant what I said last night. You're not an imposition." We stood in comfortable silence for a moment before my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out reluctantly and felt my stomach drop when I saw the notification. A text from Liam. "We need to talk. Meet me at Riverside Cafe at noon." Jasper must have seen my expression change. "Him?" I nodded, showing him the message. "He wants to meet. Do you want to go?" Did I? Part of me wanted closure, wanted to hear what he possibly had to say after abandoning me in that parking lot. Another part just wanted to block his number and move on with my life. "I think I have to," I said finally. "Even if it's just to get some kind of ending to this mess." Jasper's expression was unreadable. "I'll drive you, and I'll wait nearby in case you need an exit strategy." "You don't have to, Taylor." His voice was gentle but firm. "Let me be there for you, please." So that's how I found myself walking into Riverside Cafe at 5 minutes to noon, my heart hammering against my ribs. The cafe was where Liam and I had planned our engagement party, where we dreamed about our future together over countless cups of coffee. Now it felt like a mausoleum for something that had died slowly, painfully. Liam was already there, sitting at our usual table by the window. He looked up as I approached, and I searched his face for some sign of remorse, of regret. What I saw instead was impatience. "You're late," he said, even though I was actually 3 minutes early. "What did you want to talk about, Liam?" I remained standing, not ready to commit to sitting down and extending this conversation. He gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit down. Don't make this more dramatic than it needs to be." Something hot and angry flared in my chest, but I sat, mostly because I didn't want to cause a scene. "I'm listening." Liam leaned back in his chair, studying me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Look, I've been thinking about what happened yesterday. The way I handled things wasn't great." My heart leaped despite myself. Was he actually going to apologize? "But I stand by what I said," he continued, and my brief hope crashed and burned. "This relationship isn't working, Taylor. You're too much. Too emotional, too needy, too intense. I need someone who can give me space, who doesn't require constant validation and attention." The words should have hurt more than they did, but I'd spent all night processing my pain. Now I just felt empty, and beneath that emptiness, a slow-burning anger. "So you asked me here to tell me again that I'm the problem?" My voice was surprisingly steady. "You couldn't have done that over text?" "I wanted to do this properly," Liam said, as if he was being noble somehow. "End things face to face. We've been together 2 years. You deserve that much." What I deserved was respect. I shot back, finally letting some of that anger through. What I deserved was a partner who didn't mock me for having feelings, who didn't make me feel like loving them was some kind of character flaw. Liam's expression hardened. "See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Everything's always so heavy with you. Can't you just accept that we're not compatible and move on?" "We're not incompatible, Liam. You're just incapable of actually caring about anyone besides yourself." The words tumbled out before I could stop them, but I didn't regret them. "I gave you everything. I rearranged my entire life around your schedule, your career, your needs, and the one time I asked for something in return, just basic emotional support, you treated me like I was asking for the moon." "This is pointless," Liam said, standing up abruptly. "I came here hoping we could end things like adults. But clearly you're not capable of that." He turned to leave, and I felt something inside me finally snap. "I'm glad you ended it," I called after him, loud enough that a few other patrons looked over, because I was too afraid to admit I'd stayed way longer than I should have with someone who never actually loved me. Liam froze, turned back with fury in his eyes. "You want to know the truth, Taylor?" I checked out of this relationship months ago. I've just been going through the motions, waiting for you to finally get fed up and leave. But you never did. You just kept clinging, kept hoping, kept making excuses for me. It was pathetic. Each word was designed to wound, and they hit their marks. But instead of crumbling like he clearly expected, I stood up and looked him directly in the eye. Then I guess we both wasted each other's time, I said quietly. Goodbye, Liam. I walked out of the cafe without looking back, my whole body shaking with adrenaline and residual anger. Jasper was waiting across the street, leaning against his car, and when he saw my face, he immediately pushed off and started toward me. How bad? He asked when we met in the middle. Pretty bad, I admitted, and then, to my surprise, I laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh, but it wasn't entirely bitter either, but also kind of liberating. He's officially someone else's problem now. Or more likely just his own problem. Jasper's expression softened with relief and something else I couldn't quite name. Come on, let's get out of here. I know a place that makes excellent comfort food, and you look like you could use some real sustenance. As we walked back to his car, I realized something. I'd gone into that cafe expecting to fall apart. Instead, I'd found a core of strength I didn't know I had. Liam's words had hurt, but they hadn't destroyed me. And maybe, just maybe, that meant I was going to be okay after all. The comfort food Jasper had promised turned out to be homemade pasta at his apartment. I hadn't expected him to actually cook, but there he was in his kitchen. Sleeves rolled up, stirring a pot of marinara sauce that smelled like heaven. I sat at his kitchen island, nursing a glass of red wine he'd poured without asking if I wanted it. Somehow he just knew. I didn't know you could cook, I said, watching him move around the kitchen with practiced ease. There's a lot you don't know about me, Jasper replied, not unkindly. He glanced over his shoulder with a slight smile. Liam and I might be friends, but we don't exactly share recipes and cooking tips. The mention of Liam's name sent a small jolt through me, but it wasn't as painful as before. The cafe confrontation had drained something out of me. Not my strength, but my lingering hope that he'd somehow become the person I'd needed him to be. Can I ask you something? I set my wine glass down, suddenly needing answers. Why did you stay friends with him? I mean, you clearly saw how he treated me. You noticed things he never did. That says something about the kind of person you are versus who he is. Jasper stopped stirring, his back to me for a long moment. When he finally turned around, his expression was complicated. Guilt mixed with something I couldn't quite identify. Honestly, loyalty, I guess. We've known each other since freshman year of college. He helped me through some difficult times back then. Jasper leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. But watching him with you this past year, it's made me question a lot of things about our friendship, about whether the person he used to be even exists anymore. What was he like back then? I was curious despite myself. Different. More grounded. Less obsessed with image and success. Jasper poured pasta into a colander, steam rising around him. But people change. Sometimes not for the better. He plated the food and brought it over, sitting down beside me rather than across from me. The proximity felt intimate in a way that should have been uncomfortable but wasn't. This looks amazing, I said, twirling pasta around my fork. The first bite was incredible, rich and flavorful, exactly what I needed. We ate in comfortable silence for a while, and I found myself studying Jasper when he wasn't looking. The strong line of his jaw, the way his dark hair fell slightly into his eyes when he leaned forward. The calluses on his hands that suggested he did more than just office work. He was attractive. I'd always known that in an abstract way, but now I was noticing it differently. You're staring, Jasper said softly, not looking up from his plate. Heat rushed to my face. Sorry, I was just thinking. About what? I hesitated, then decided honesty was the only way forward. About how different you are from him. How you make me feel safe instead of anxious. How I don't have to second-guess every word I say around you. Jasper finally looked at me, and the intensity in his gaze made my breath catch. Taylor, I need to tell you something, but I don't want you to feel pressured or uncomfortable. My heart started racing. Okay. He set down his fork and turned to face me fully. I've noticed you for a long time. Not just your drink orders or your habits, but you. The way you light up when you talk about books you love. How you always make sure everyone's included in conversations at parties. The way you tried so hard to make Liam happy even when he didn't deserve it. He paused, seeming to gather courage. I told myself it was wrong to feel anything because you were with him. But I couldn't help it. I sat frozen, processing his words. Jasper, I'm not telling you this to complicate things or to pressure you into anything, he continued quickly. You just got out of a relationship. You need time to heal. I needed you to know that what I'm doing isn't out of pity or guilt. I genuinely care about you. The confession hung between us, heavy and significant. Part of me wanted to run, to protect myself from potentially getting hurt again. But a larger part, the part that had felt seen and valued for the first time in months, wanted to stay. I don't know what I'm feeling right now, I admitted. Everything's so confused and messy in my head. But I do know that being around you doesn't hurt. It actually helps. Jasper nodded, understanding in his eyes. That's enough for now. You don't need to figure everything out tonight. After dinner, he insisted on setting up the guest room properly for me. I watched him change the sheets, fluff the pillows, and place a bottle of water on the nightstand. Such simple acts of care, but they meant everything. Thank you, I said from the doorway, for all of this. For seeing me when I felt invisible. Jasper straightened up, and for a moment I thought he might cross the distance between us. Instead, he stayed where he was, his expression soft but controlled. Get some rest. Tomorrow's a new day. But sleep didn't come easily. I lay in the darkness of the guest room, replaying the evening in my mind. Jasper's confession, the way he looked at me, the gentleness in every gesture. My body felt hyper-aware of the fact that he was just down the hall, probably lying awake too. I thought about Liam, about the relationship I'd fought so hard to save. Had I ever felt this kind of quiet intensity with him? This sense that someone truly understood me? I couldn't remember if I had. Maybe that should have been my first clue that something was wrong. Around 2 in the morning, I gave up on sleep and padded quietly to the kitchen for water. To my surprise, Jasper was there, standing by the window in sweatpants and a t-shirt, holding a mug of something that smelled like chamomile tea. Couldn't sleep either, he asked without turning around. Too much in my head, I admitted, joining him at the window. The city stretched out below us, lights twinkling like earthbound stars. Want to talk about it? I considered lying, but what was the point? I keep thinking about what you said, about noticing me, and I'm wondering why I never noticed you noticing. Jasper finally looked at me, and in the dim light from the window his features were softened, almost vulnerable. Because you were focused on someone who didn't deserve your attention, and I made sure you wouldn't notice. It wasn't my place. And now, he said quietly, things are different, but only if you want them to be. No pressure, Taylor. I mean that. I stood there beside him, our shoulders almost touching, and felt something shift inside me. Not healing that would take time, but the beginning of something. A possibility I hadn't expected to find in the wreckage of my failed relationship. I think I'd like to find out what different looks like, I whispered. Jasper's hand found mine in the darkness, his fingers warm and steady. He didn't say anything, but he didn't need to. The gentle squeeze of his hand said everything. A week and a half passed in a strange sort of limbo. I'd officially moved into Jasper's guest room after retrieving my essential belongings from the apartment I'd shared with Liam. The encounter had been mercifully brief. Liam wasn't home, and I'd grabbed clothes, toiletries, and a few precious books before leaving my key on the counter. Jasper gave me space but never let me feel alone. He'd make breakfast before work, leave encouraging notes on the coffee maker, and text me throughout the day with random observations that made me smile. We'd started a routine of evening walks around his neighborhood, talking about everything except the obvious tension building between us. I was beginning to understand what attraction felt like when it wasn't one-sided or desperate. This wasn't the anxious need I'd felt with Liam, constantly seeking validation. This was something quieter, steadier, like gravity pulling me toward someone who actually wanted to be pulled toward. On Thursday evening, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Stop screening my calls, Taylor. Liam's voice was sharp with irritation. My stomach clenched. How did you get this number? I have my ways. We need to discuss the apartment, the joint accounts, all the practical stuff you ran away from. I didn't run away. I left. There's a difference. I was standing in Jasper's living room, and I watched him emerge from his home office, concern immediately crossing his face when he saw my expression. "Whatever helps you sleep at night," Liam said dismissively. "Look, I've been thinking, maybe I was too harsh at the cafe. We could try again, work on our issues." "No." The word came out firm and clear. "We're done, Liam. Completely done." "Is this because of Jasper?" His tone shifted, becoming accusatory. "Are you seriously shacking up with my best friend? That's low, Taylor. Even for you." Jasper must have heard the change in my voice because he crossed the room, standing close enough that I could feel his steadying presence. "Where I'm staying is none of your concern," I said. "And Jasper has been a better friend to me in 2 weeks than you were as a partner in 2 years. Friend." Liam laughed bitterly. "Right. Keep telling yourself that. He's probably just entertaining himself with my leftovers until he gets bored." The crude comment made my hands shake with anger. "We're finished with this conversation. Have your lawyer contact me about the apartment." I hung up before he could respond and immediately blocked the number. My hands were trembling and I felt Jasper's gentle touch on my shoulder. "What did he say?" Jasper's voice was tight with barely controlled anger. "Nothing worth repeating." I turned to face him, and something about the protective fury in his eyes made my resolve strengthen. "But he knows I'm here. He's going to make this complicated. Let him try." Jasper's hand moved from my shoulder to cup my face, his thumb brushing my cheek in a gesture that had become familiar over the past days. "I'm not afraid of complicated, Taylor. Not when it comes to you." The air between us felt electric. We'd been dancing around this moment, both of us aware that crossing this line would change everything. I could see the question in his eyes, waiting for permission, giving me every chance to step back. Instead, I stepped forward. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, both of us testing the waters of something new and terrifying. But then Jasper's other hand found my waist, pulling me closer, and I let myself fall into it. This kiss was nothing like kissing Liam. There was no performance, no anxiety about doing it right. Just genuine connection, warmth, and the feeling of finally being exactly where I was supposed to be. When we finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless, Jasper rested his forehead against mine. "I've wanted to do that for a very long time," he admitted quietly. "Why didn't you?" "Because wanting you and having the right to pursue you are two different things." He pulled back slightly to look at me. "I needed you to be free first. And I needed you to want this too, not just as a rebound or a way to get back at Liam." "This isn't about him," I said with certainty. "This is about you making me remember what it feels like to be treated like I matter." The next morning, I woke up in the guest room but found a text from Jasper waiting. "Coffee's ready. And I made pancakes. Possibly burnt them. Come rescue me." I smiled and made my way to the kitchen, where Jasper was indeed surveying slightly charred pancakes with a rueful expression. "I'm better at pasta," he said sheepishly. "These are perfect," I insisted, grabbing the syrup. We sat at the kitchen island, shoulders touching, eating burnt pancakes like they were a gourmet meal. "So," Jasper said carefully, "about last night, I don't regret it," I interrupted. "If that's what you're worried about, I'm not worried. I just want to make sure we're on the same page." He set down his fork. "I don't want to rush you into anything you're not ready for." I turned to face him fully. "I'm not ready for grand declarations or planning a future together. But I am ready to see where this goes. With you. If you're willing to be patient with me while I figure out who I am outside of that relationship." "I can do patient," Jasper said, his smile warming something deep inside me. "I've been patient this long." Later that afternoon, we ventured out to a farmer's market. It felt surreal, walking beside Jasper, his hand occasionally brushing mine as we browsed stalls of fresh produce and handmade crafts. Natural. Easy. Right. That's when I saw Liam. He was with a group of friends laughing loudly at something someone had said. Our eyes met across the crowded market, and I watched his expression shift from surprise to something darker when he noticed Jasper beside me. He started walking toward us, his friends trailing behind, and I felt Jasper's hand find mine. A silent show of solidarity. "Taylor," Liam said when he reached us, barely acknowledging Jasper. "Interesting seeing you here." "It's a public market," I replied evenly. "I'm allowed to exist in public spaces." With him, Liam's eyes flicked to Jasper with undisguised contempt. "That didn't take long." Jasper stepped slightly forward, his body language protective without being aggressive. Walk away, Liam. Or what? You'll play hero again? Liam's voice rose slightly, drawing attention from nearby market-goers. This is pathetic. Both of you. My ex and my supposed best friend. You're actually perfect for each other. Both completely disloyal. The only disloyalty here was yours, I said firmly. To our relationship, to basic decency. To me. Liam's face flushed with anger, but before he could respond, one of his friends, Marcus, I remembered, put a hand on his shoulder. Dude, let it go. This isn't the place, Marcus said quietly. For a moment I thought Liam might actually make a scene. But something in Marcus's expression must have gotten through to him. He stepped back, shaking his head. Whatever. Enjoy your rebound, Taylor. Don't come crawling back when reality sets in. He turned to Jasper. And you? You just threw away 12 years of friendship for what? Some wounded puppy who needs saving? I threw it away the moment you showed me who you really are, Jasper replied calmly. Someone who treats people as disposable. Someone who mistakes kindness for weakness. I should have ended our friendship a long time, Mom. Liam opened his mouth, closed it, then spun on his heel and walked away, his friends following with apologetic glances in our direction. I realized I was shaking, but not from fear or sadness. From relief. From the final, definitive severing of something that should have ended months ago. You okay? Jasper asked, his hand still in mine. Actually, yes. I looked up at him. I really am. We finished our walk through the market, and by the time we returned to his apartment, the sun was beginning to set. Jasper suggested we watch the sunset from his balcony, and I agreed, following him outside with 2 glasses of wine he'd poured. The city stretched out before us, bathed in golden light. We stood at the railing, close but not quite touching, both of us seeming to sense that this moment required something more than casual conversation. Can I ask you something serious? I said finally. Anything. When did you know that you had feelings for me? I mean, was it gradual, or was there a specific moment? Jasper was quiet for so long I thought he might not answer. Then he spoke, his voice soft but certain. There was a moment. About 8 months ago. You and Liam hosted that dinner party, remember? He got called away for a work emergency and you insisted everyone stay, that we shouldn't let the food go to waste. He smiled at the memory. You were so gracious about it, making sure everyone felt comfortable even though he'd essentially abandoned you. And I watched you laugh with his friends, genuinely trying to make the evening special despite everything, and I thought, she deserves so much more than this. My throat tightened. I remembered that night. I'd cried myself to sleep afterward, feeling like a failure for not being enough to make Liam prioritize me even for one evening. I didn't know anyone noticed. I whispered, I noticed everything. Jasper turned to face me fully. The way you'd make excuses for him. How you'd dim your own light to make him feel brighter. I wanted to shake you and tell you that you were wasting yourself on someone who couldn't see your value. But that wasn't my place. And now, he reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. Now I'm asking if I can be the person who reminds you of your worth every single day. No pressure, no expectations. Just the chance to show you what it feels like to be with someone who actually sees you. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. This was it, the moment where I had to decide if I was brave enough to trust again, to risk my heart with someone new. I'm scared, I admitted. What if I'm too broken? What if I bring all my baggage from Liam into this and ruin it? Then we'll deal with it together. Jasper's hands found mine. Taylor, I'm not asking for perfect. I'm asking for real. And real means working through the hard stuff. The messy stuff. I'm willing to do that if you are. I looked into his eyes and saw something I hadn't seen in Liam's in a very long time. Genuine, unconditional care. Not love yet, perhaps, but the foundation of it. Something that could grow into something beautiful if we tended it carefully. I want to try, I said. With you. For real. The smile that broke across Jasper's face was radiant. He pulled me close, and this kiss was different from the one the night before. This one was a promise, a beginning, a declaration of intent. When we finally pulled apart, both of us were smiling like idiots. So what now? I asked, suddenly giddy with the newness of it all. Now we take it one day at a time, Jasper said. No rushing, No forcing anything. We just see where this takes us. I think I can handle that. We stayed on the balcony as the sun disappeared completely, replaced by city lights that glittered like stars. Jasper wrapped his arm around my shoulders, and I leaned into his warmth, feeling something I hadn't felt in longer than I could remember. Hope. My phone buzzed with a text. I glanced at it and saw it was from my best friend Mara, who I'd been updating sporadically about everything. Dinner tomorrow? I want to hear everything. And possibly meet this mystery man who's making you smile again. I showed Jasper the text, suddenly nervous. She wants to meet you. Is that too fast? I'd love to meet her, he said simply. I want to be part of your life, Taylor. All of it. As we headed back inside, I caught my reflection in the glass door, and barely recognized myself. Not because I looked different, but because the person staring back at me looked happy. Genuinely, honestly happy. Liam had broken me down, made me question everything about myself. But Jasper was helping me rebuild, piece by careful piece, not into who I was before, but into someone stronger, someone who knew their worth. This wasn't a fairy tale ending. There would be hard days ahead, moments of doubt, complications from the messy way this had all started. But standing there with Jasper's hand in mine, I felt ready to face all of it. Because for the first time in years I wasn't facing anything alone. And that made all the difference.